still love the cynical quote by Mark Twain, who said something to the effect of, "Go ahead and write if you really believe you can. However, if after 3 years you haven't made any money, you may have to face the truth that chopping wood was what you were meant to do."
Somehow I get the feeling I was probably meant to chop wood, but I just got lucky. Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome back to another episode of SMG Viewers Comments. It's Friday, gonna have a hell of an episode. Got a lot of great quotes and questions from you guys that we're gonna take a look at. As always, if you've got a question burning in your mind about being in a band or running a home studio or something like that, I will try and put it on the show, so please feel free to leave it down below. Anyway, the show isn't about me, it's about you, so let's get right to it.
When some up-and-coming person says, "I want to record and photo bands," they should be forced to watch a dozen or so of your videos. If they haven't run screaming and crying to mommy by the end, then they are safe to proceed to step 1, finding a clue.
Oh man, I wouldn't go that far. I just wish somebody had been there to tell me when I was starting out, hey, guess what? That first band that you had come in and totally kick ass in the studio, yeah, that's a rarity. Most of the time, you're gonna be teaching people how to play their instruments, not actually getting decent performances out of them. Now, that group in question was called Problem to the Solution. They were a Windsor band and they were freaking amazing. And it was, I don't know, 3-4 years before I ever got to record another band that was at that level. Sadly, yes, most of the time you are going to be spending your time just trying to squeeze something usable out of the musicians instead of, capturing lightning in the bottle. That's just the nature of the job. Same thing if you want to take pictures of bands. The hardest part is going to be getting them all to show up at the same location at the same time and not be looking at their phones every 3 minutes with, well, I've got something to do. Can we hurry this up? That's the nature of the job. And if anybody tells you different, they are fucking lying to you.
Do I need a music video for my first release? Getting the budget for one will probably push my release at least a year. Any advice?
Well, this is the thing. If you put your song out, nobody listens to it, you can still put a video out a year later when you have a budget for it. But then again, if you put it out and somebody likes it, hey, you might get some popularity. You can always do a GoFundMe. There's all kinds of ways to raise money to do a music video. And, if you get clever about things, you don't have to spend an awful lot on a video. You could probably shoot a very basic one with an iPhone and learn how to use DaVinci Resolve and edit it yourself. You don't just do a lot of shots at sunset because the light's going to be great and you don't have to worry about taking lighting classes or any of that crap. There is always a way to do it. You just got to be willing to put the time in and learn as much as you possibly can along the way. Best of luck to you, man.
I laughed so hard when he said, "Once upon a time, we had actual drummers on record." Imagine that. Thanks for giving us some credit.
Now, that's the thing. A great drummer can be the nerve center of a band. Go check out Led Zeppelin. Go check out The Who. Those guys had larger-than-life drummers who were just the life force of the band. And sadly, that's not really happening anymore. We don't really get that. I mean, like maybe with the exception of Gene Hoglan and Scott Travis, those guys, know how to really bring it in the studio. You don't have to time line and sample replace the living shit out of them to get them to sound good. I, for one, long for the days when musicians could just stand in a semicircle around the drummer and just rock the fuck out in the studio and capture something awesome.
Glenn, how many milliseconds off-grid is considered an acceptable performance, and how many is enough to be forced to re-record a take?
I've got a better idea. Why don't you turn off the metronome and try rocking the fuck out?
Talking about the prices of gear going up, what do you think about the freaking ridiculous prices for old 50s and 60s guitars? Even the CBS Fenders are now expensive, and a shit ton of them were absolute crap. Poorly made garbage compared to the ones from just a few years before. My oldest guitar is a late 90s Mexican Strat, and I wouldn't trade it for the world. Old guitars costing hundreds of thousands, that's just stupid. It's just some old wood and some wires.
Jeremy, I think you hit the nail on the head there. I didn't realize that the CBS Strats were even starting to go for a pretty penny these days. That kind of blows my mind, to be honest with you. I had a made in Mexico Strat that I absolutely love. I've now got an American Ultra, which is just fucking unreal, and I've got to do a review on it at some point. But I just don't understand paying thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars for old guitars that really aren't that great. I mean, maybe there's something in resale value there, but I certainly don't need one of those to, make my life complete. Let's just put it that way. I mean, seriously. I just got this back from LA. Finally, I got this in 2020. I unboxed this a couple years back, and I still really need to do a full review on this as well. This is an LTD H1000. This guitar is just simply phenomenal. I mean, that's the great thing about modern CNC manufacturing. The quality of the instruments being created these days is just second to none. The frets are beautiful. The neck plays like butter. The action's incredible. and it's got some wicked Seymour Duncans in it. Like, seriously, what more do you need? I don't need to spend, 3 times the amount of money than what this guitar would cost to get a quality instrument. This is delivering the goods right here, and it's not going to break the bank. And I'm all for that. Yeah, I never really understood the multi-$1,000 guitar instrument as an investment thing. It just doesn't make any sense to me. Maybe somebody could explain to me the allure, because I just don't fucking get it.
Hey Glenn, I'm new to the studio. I've learned a lot watching your show. Fucking love it. How do I bring in bands? What's the best way to sell yourself?
Hey, David, thanks for coming on board. Thanks for hanging out. Now, here's the thing. I can give you advice for what worked 20 years ago, but I mean, it's a completely different landscape these days. Most bands are just going to record themselves because the technology has made things so much easier. Easy drummer, easy mix, easy bass. I mean, drop all that in. All you got to do is, cup a mic and scream about cookies, and, there's your fucking modern death metal right there. Everything's already prefab, pre-mixed, preset. All you got to do is throw some riff salad into the work. It's really nothing to it. So the big question you have to ask yourself is, what can you offer bands that they can't do for themselves? When I started out in the late 90s, I had a studio. Most bands didn't have that. So, and I had some really bleeding edge technology. I was working with Metallithic Systems, Digital Wings for Audio, which is one of the very first PC multi-trackers. Most guys didn't have access to that sort of thing. So, I grew my business over the years, but I mean, like, seriously, especially over the last 10 years, it's just gotten easier and easier and easier for bands to record themselves. Now, how I got my first band in the door was I recorded them for free. They were a buddy's band. I'm like, why don't you guys come on in? Let's do a song. Let's have some fun, see how it goes. The guys came in. We had a lot of fun. We tracked it. And the next thing I know, they told all their friends. And that pretty much set me on a path from, say, 98 to about 2015, where I was just busy all the time recording bands. We had a bit of a slowdown there during the 2008 recession, but things picked right back up again shortly thereafter that. And that's not to say I don't get offers from bands to record them all the time. It's just I have to be very careful because I'm so busy doing YouTube these days. But I do have a group coming in a couple weeks. It's going to be a lot of fun. I haven't had a group in here a couple years because of, COVID and whatnot. But yeah, things are finally opening back up again. And I really, really am looking forward to doing it. In your situation, though, I'm not sure what the best way to proceed would be. If you've got the facilities and you've got the availability, yes, go check out some bands. Maybe convince somebody to come in and lay down a song for free. See how you like working with it. See how they like working with you. And then maybe you can get more people coming in through the door. I can't guarantee that's a path to success for you, though. Like I said, a lot of bands are just going to want to record themselves instead of pay somebody else. And that is what you have to compete against. So as long as you know that going in, you should do okay.
Literally every single tube swap you did sounded different. Wow. Exactly how big of a change were you expecting? You're obviously not going to revoice the amp, but you can measure the gain output on each tube. They all have different gain levels, have much different headrooms, different harmonic saturation, etc. They also have different outputs per side, which will have much more obvious impacts in the power section. By the way, you don't just swap tubes if you want a better sound. You need to find a tube whose characteristics work best in each position of the amp. A V1 tube should have the highest gain and at least the signal coloration. A phase inverter should have matched sides. That test for feel you mentioned, by the way, is measured as the Miller capacitance and correlates to the size of the grids, which vary between manufacturers.
Oh man, the tube swap video, the gift that keeps on giving. Dave, I think you hit on a point here. You said you're obviously not going to revoice an amp. Thank you so much for saying that, because that's what we've been led to believe as consumers. Oh, you want to change your tone, change out your tubes. It's going to change the sound of your amp. You just said you're not going to revoice the amp, and I thank you for saying that, because as a studio engineer, that's exactly what I'm looking for. This amp doesn't sound great. Okay, let's change the tubes out, get a better sound. No. Don't change the amp out, change the speaker out, change the cabinet out, because that is where the voicing is going to be. That's what a studio engineer should be looking at. Remember, I'm not a fucking blues guy. I'm not looking for Miller capacitance, as you called it. I'm not looking to play on a distortion threshold. I'm totally not into that. I want high gain fucking tone that's going to sound fucking wicked. And changing your tubes out is not gonna make one fucking iota of difference in that at all. We did get changes in amplitude, and I did state that in that video, but we did not get changes in voicing, because tubes are not filters. They are amplifiers. Some are going to be a little louder than others. Some are going to break up a little sooner than others. And in metal, nobody gives a fuck about that at all. You know what also changes the gain structure of an amp? The gain knob!
20949. Thanks for the review, Glenn. I'm glad you like my track. Interesting that you like the bass. As much as I hate to say it, I don't have a bass guitar. That was my guitar pitched down an octave and put through a bunch of plugins to get a bass sound. But I'm glad it sounded good. Ha ha ha.
Dude, good for you, man. I did exactly the same thing when I was starting out. I didn't have a bass guitar either, so I just recorded my guitar clean and then pitched it down an octave, and it fucking worked. You know what? Use whatever tools you have at your disposal to get the sounds you're envisioning. The fact that you pulled it off so convincingly, dude, I salute you. Great job, man. And for all you guys wondering what the fuck I'm talking about, please come hang out on Monday morning mix reviews or Monday evening mix reviews. That's where I take a look at your songs and try and help you out the best I can for the people who need it. And once in a while, we get to hear some really amazing music as well. We've definitely come across some real bangers over the last couple weeks, most notably Cletus Christ. He's really stood out. There's also this song up on Spotify I just can't get out of my head called Hamburger Sandwich. It's like, what would happen if the Fresh Prince went gent? For whatever reason, it works.
What was the moment trigger where you realized you could leave Chrysler and make a living teaching us plebs?
Okay, first off, I'm really not comfortable with that word, plebs. Here's the thing, guys. I'm no different than you. I've just been doing it a little bit longer, and I'm more than happy to pass along what I've learned because I wish somebody was there for me when I was starting out to say, hey, don't do this. Musicians are going to waste your time. Make sure they come in prepared. Shit like that. As for the moment I realized I could do this for a living, I got to say it was NAMM 2015. Rob Scallon pulled me aside and we talked for a good 2 hours. That was the conversation that changed my life. He said, I see great potential in your channel. You're going to be able to make a living doing this, and here's how you're going to do it. And I'm like, oh, come on, man, whatever. And he explained to me how the music business works, because let's be honest, they certainly don't teach you business at Chrysler, and they certainly don't teach it to you in high school either. I was completely ignorant of any of this. And, I sat through a lot of the classes at NAMM and went to a lot of the seminars, and I learned an awful lot. And I finally put the stake through the heart of the Chrysler Vampire in spring of 2020. I got to a certain point where I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm doing this for real now. And for that, I am absolutely grateful to each and every one of you, because goal number one from the day I got hired at Chrysler was to get the fuck out of Chrysler, because nobody ever grows up saying, I want to be an auto worker, especially not me. I mean, like, I went to school for media arts. I wanted to do music videos. I wanted to, record bands. I wanted to do all kinds of stuff. And none of it entailed working on the line. But working on the line allowed me to open up my own home studio and finance that and be able to record bands. And then here we are, 27, 28 years later, I get to do this for real. And once again, I gotta say, to each and every one of you, thank you from the bottom of my heart. I am ever so grateful to all of you guys.
Is there really much difference between cheap and more expensive patch bass, Behringer, Art, Hosa, Switchcraft, Nutrick, whatever? It'd be nice to have something small for easier access to the inserts on the back of my interface without leaving loose cables lying around when I'm not in use. What would even something like a couple of Nutrick female-to-female adapters thrown in a case or just wiring a couple jacks into a pedal enclosure do the job without impacting sound quality?
Actually, I just had a Nutrick stereo 1/4-inch patch bay that I just sold. I think I bought it for less than $100. Totally did the job. Like I said, it just worked with stereo quarters, and that was fine. I've got a Redco patch bay sitting over here, and that's like, what, a 64-point patch bay. That thing is just unreal. Some patch bays can get really stupidly expensive. The Redco is TT, and it's probably the most affordable TT patch bay you can find. I would really recommend checking out one of those. As far as bang for the buck, they've got it in spades.
Just started watching your videos and 4 things happened as a direct result of that life choice. 1, women started flocking towards me so hard and fast I threw my back out, replacing the reels in one of those a red consecutive number dispenser I bought from my local deli to keep track of who gets the next shot at the chat. Number 2, I'm now able to open sealed pickle jars on first attempt with even wet bare hands. 3, my mom called me and told me she now thinks more of me, that my status in her mind is upgraded to me being 3/4 the way to being an actual adult man. 4, I walked up and flexed these guns in front of the cutest girl in my town. She said, I think you might need to go to a veterinarian. I asked, why? She said, because those pythons are sick. Thanks, Glenn.
Don't mention it.
You've been to Vienna. Hey, Glenn, did you go to Bratislava, Slovakia? Badass place, a mere 40 minutes from Vienna.
Sadly, no, I have not been to Bratislava. Every time I hear that word, all I can think about is that movie Eurotrip. Hey, Miami Vice, best new show. Good thing you visited in the summer. Gets a little depressing in winter. Seriously, though, is Bratislava a place I should be checking out? Hopefully, I'm going to get to go to Europe this spring. Looking forward to checking out a bunch of different places. Should I put Bratislava on that list? You guys tell me.
Hello, Glenn. I have a Scarlett 18i 23rd gen. I'm planning on purchasing good quality microphones, AKG C414s, MD421s, Beta 52A, SM57, RE20, SM7B, D112. I work at Guitar Center, so I actually get a great discount. I was planning on also upgrading my Scarlett 18i 23rd gen to a new Claret 8 Pre Apollo Twin for 10 channels or a Claret plus 8 Pre for 16 channels. Will the mics preamps alone be worth a $600, $1,200 investment, or will the 18i 23rd gen be good enough for those mics, and should I rather invest in another 18i 23rd gen for 16 channels?
Hey, Felix, great question. I think we all kind of face that at some point, and the big question always comes, yeah, should we upgrade? Should we upgrade? Should we upgrade? This is the thing, the Focusrite stuff is really, really, really good. these days. Even the Claret stuff is really good. I just had a conversation with a noted audio engineer, and we were discussing the thing about preamps, and turns out as long as you don't distort them, they're all pretty much sound the same. So I don't know if upgrading from a Scarlett to a Claret's really going to make that big of a difference. You probably will get slightly better converters with the Claret, though. I don't know how big of an audible difference you will hear, but at least the math's better. That being said, I've got the Redline 16 back there, and oh, it is luscious. It is Focusrite's best model, and it's simply fantastic. I didn't notice a gigantic difference going from the RME to that, though. Like, the RME stuff's absolutely incredible, too. But, I mean, my initial big rig recording in here was a pair of M-Audio Delta 1010s. I went from that to an RME Fireface 800, and that was a noticeable improvement, not only in terms of converters, but also the routing as well, because the RME routing was spectacular. And yeah, the Focusrite Redline, the routing on that is on par, if not maybe even rivals the RME routing. So that's pretty cool too. My suggestion to you would be, yes, upgrade your mics, get the best mics you can, because that's really where you're going to see the massive differences in sound is in the transducers. Transducers being speakers, microphones, pickups, that kind of stuff. Get the best drum mics you can. Of course, for that, I recommend the Lewitt 340 TTs on the toms, because they'll rival 421s, and they only cost about 99 bucks, and they are freaking spectacular. I get to unbox. Oh yeah. Now they lifted the press embargo on this guy. This is the programmable tube mic that we tested the 3D printed prototype on a couple of years ago in Hollywood. And yeah, I finally got a production model, and I got to shoot this first thing tomorrow morning, but at least I can talk about it now. I know this thing is going to be absolutely freaking insane. So if you're looking for an absolute top of the heap tube mic, this might be just the ticket. Seriously though, when it comes to upgrading gear, always look at your mics first. That's my suggestion. That, and of course, room treatment. Build bass traps, build absorbers, and try and get your room tweaked out the best you possibly can. That's going to cause a massive difference in your tone, and it's going to have far more impact than upgrading your converters. So if you're asking to throw on an extra 8 channels, yeah, take a look at maybe even a Claret Octopre or something like that. That might be just the ticket. And of course, if you want to add on a bank of incredible preamps that are going to have great converters as well, take a look at the audience stuff, the ASP 800 and 880. Those are second to none. When it comes to bang for the buck 8-channel units, they just cannot be beat.
Bit off topic, I gotta ask, how does solar guitars feel to play? For example, how smooth does the fretboard feel when playing? I'm a coin toss between an LTD black metal 6-string Les Paul and a solar 6-string Flying V. Leaning more towards the Flying V cosmetically, I like guitars that look more like weapons from the medieval times than plain old guitars, LOL.
Well, you know, I had a Solar V there a couple of years ago. I did a review on it, and it was phenomenal. I gave it to a buddy of mine, and boy, do I ever regret that, but whatever. It made him happy. That being said, hey, anybody at Solar Guitars, you got a new V model you'd like me to check out, you know, hey, I'd really appreciate it. So right now I've got, I got a baritone down in LA, and I've got this Model T here, and you know, it feels really great. I mean, like, yeah, the neck joint is second to none. There's some really nice ergonomic things, like there's a beveled edge here. There's a beveled edge back there. It's really easy to sit with. Of course, my other room is a little bit colder than this, so not quite in tune, but this is a very reliable guitar. Comes again with Seymour Duncans, and it's even got a hot rail here, which is really cool. My only gripe is I would have loved to see the hot rail down on this end. That's just me. I've got a thing for hot rails in the bridge position. I just love the sound of those. Phenomenal guitar, just real simple instrument, plays great. I loved the V with the Floyd. That thing just played like butter, and I was very sad to see it go. That being said, that LTD I just showed off too is a great guitar too. It's a great time to be a guitar player because you can get such a high quality instrument for not a lot of money, and I think that's just wonderful. Of course, if you're looking for a single cut, there's this 10S here that goes for about 500 US. Is honestly one of the best playing guitars I've ever picked up in my entire life. We'll have more on this in a couple days.
You can't make something sound that good working with Reaper and Kali monitors. You must use Pro Tools and some very expensive monitors. Jeez!
Clearly you've been spending too much time on gear sluts.
Sick of negative video titles. Unsub!
You're unsubbing because of my video title? Really? You didn't even bother to listen to what I had to say? Wow. Sorry to offend you there, Mr. Snowflake. Have a nice life.
This channel isn't for the easily offended, and clearly we see a lot of them commenting in your videos.
Like that last guy? Yeah, no fucking shit. Last week, you know, we had one from the Butthurt pastor. Oh, you insulted my religion. Yes, I tend to do that quite often. I don't know, you ever consider maybe getting better beliefs? All right. That's enough for this week. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Thanks for all the comments, questions, and whatnot. It's great to see you guys coming back week after week after week. As always, if you want to know something about recording, mixing, being in a band, any of that kind of shit, running a home studio, please leave a comment below. If I find it beneficial to the audience, I'll be more than happy to put it on the show. And yeah, always keep the jokes coming too, because that's always a lot of fun. So we got some cool episodes coming up in the next few weeks. We've got this review on this 10S single cut, which is just freaking insane. I can't believe the action on this thing. This guitar just makes me want to play. And we've got the Lewitt boat anchor, tube mic. Oh, this thing weighs a ton. This thing's exceptional. That's for sure. And we got a bunch of software demos coming up as well. There's a new plugin repository that came out for Reaper. It's all free. I was just browsing through it the other day. I think it's called the Toucan plugin, something like that. I'm going to do a feature on that. Looks very, very promising. I'm going to do a full mix with it on the show and show you guys what I think of it. We'll see what we get. Anyway, make sure you subscribe so you get updated on all that. And as always, keep those comments and questions coming, because I love hearing from you guys. So as always, until next time, get out there and make some metal, you amazing motherfuckers. Oh, I don't know. I'm kind of glad I wasn't. Oh, I don't know, man. Did you go to Bratislava? Ugh, fuck. I say it one more time. That was the hardest thing in the world to say that with a straight face. Thank you for that post.